Another thing that I have in my mind about male depression, this is part two, so that it doesn't get too big, otherwise it's tiring, is that most men that I know, they want everyone around them to live for their wound. Meaning, they want everybody else to put up with the rubbish that they create and be quiet about it. That's not very fair, now is it? And so many guys, they get stuck in this loop where they think that the problem is their work. It's not. It's because you are demanding from others 1,000 times more than you are offering to others. You just receive and you never release. Just receive and never release. That's what I was saying in the first video. Autistic kids often require a lot of energy towards them and they give very little to the outside world, you see. So they demand unconditional love from everyone around them because not necessarily they give as much as they take, you see. And surprisingly, well, for me not surprising at all, but most of the autistic people are boys. Of course, because society created this. We have been designing this and creating this and triggering this for centuries and centuries. And now there is this huge amount of people who are born disconnected from feeling, in a sense of they can feel and they are very sensitive to everything around them, and the entire family has to surrender to their needs, and they are always more special and they are always the center of it because they have to be right. They have to be. I'm not saying that this is done on purpose. Pay attention. It's not done on purpose. I'm just saying everything surrounds them. Everything happens revolving around them. They are the center, always, of the family, of the classroom, of the job, of the everything. Everything is for them. Exactly how men do. And so the depression in men comes a lot, like in a huge amount, from the fact that men demand everything from them for themselves, offer nothing to the outside world. Everybody else is taught to applaud, hey, he's selfish. And that means that he doesn't know how to connect because he only knows how to take. He doesn't know how to give, but it's a two-way road, you know what I mean? And so it's return, you know what I mean? Because of that, they have a very hard time connecting physically and emotionally, intimately. They have a very hard time connecting with people. So they become islands, you know. People with heavy trauma that, for example, survivors of the Second World War or whatever genocide or war that happened in the world, they have a hard time speaking their souls, and because of that, they have a very hard time connecting with people because there's something within them that they don't want to share, they don't want to show. And if you don't, then you can't let people see you at all, because if they look at you, they're going to see whatever it is that you don't want them to see. And so depression has everything to do with the lack of ability of connecting emotionally, physically, psychologically, energetically to other people. So when you see your wife, maybe you love her, but you have no connection with her. And so it's this huge wave, like this huge tide of couples who are married and are completely alone within their marriages and die feeling lonely, having had a person for an entire life by their sides. They were accompanied by this person most of their lives, yet they feel deeply alone. So this is something we have to keep in mind. Something else about male depression is Men tend to open up and speak when they have the courage to heal, and then think that they understand the entire universe and everyone else around them because they have spoken about their pain. Your experience is not the same as someone else's. And when you try to fit someone else's experience into the very little that you know about life, because this is what we are just a tiny bit of life compared to the whole. When you do this to somebody, you cancel their experience because you are trying to transform their experience into yours because you know everything. So you're wiser than they are because you have seen your wounds and you have seen your trauma and you have explored yourself already and you know it all. But your experience is not the same experience as them. So this arrogance of I know it all, I have to know it all. If I have an experience, I understood it all because mine was deeper than everybody else's. Mine was different from everybody else's. This is freaking arrogant. And arrogance is being an island separate from everything. So even when men are searching for a way to heal, they tend to be very arrogant and very separate, and they tend to cancel everybody else's experience and giving preference to themselves. For example, a lot of depressed men, they say that their wives don't understand them, they don't hear them, or husband, it doesn't matter. I say wife and husband because if you talk about a man and a woman, it's easier to explain because of the physical differences, you know what I mean? But this happens with whatever couple in the world, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter. It can be two girls, two women, two boys, two men, more than one person. It really doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It really doesn't matter. This is for the sake of explaining. I know you know that. But they say, oh, she doesn't understand me. But do you understand her? Have you tried to listen to her? Because you are demanding something from her that you don't do for her. You know what I mean? So you want something that you don't give back. So you're gonna take and take and take and never give. Yet guys tend to think that they only give and they never take. Whilst it's the exact opposite. Because men can never be critiqued. They can never be called over something that they are doing. They can never be corrected. You see? So in the end, the ego that is inflated by society and by the families and by all of the cultural things that we know, yes, gives a lot of preference to men. And then allows them to spend their entire lives depressed because they cannot be challenged. They cannot be vulnerable. They cannot be fragile. So everything is about them always because they have to be the main character, yes or yes. Always. And this self-centered me kind of attitude is something that women are reproducing now, trying to catch a breath, you know, of out of repression. And this is making the world even more masculine. So we're going to have a huge masculine energy crisis in the next few years until it explodes and it crumbles because it has to break, you know, it has to really implode or explode in order to change so that the feminine energy can come from within. You see, because right now it's just this male energy everywhere, women emulating this to earn money and to be independent and to create the lives that they want, because that's the only way that the system accepts you to grow and be independent and be bigger. So if only men can do that, women transform into men in skirts so that they can get the freedom that a man has. It's what Diane von Furstenberg says. I want to be a woman living a man's life. And then when women are very masculine, men have a problem with it. But you don't allow them to be feminine because it's everything about you. So you force them to be something that you then repress. So you repress either way. And that means you are always lonely because in your island, you're the only one who fit. Nobody else fits because nobody else is as good as you. You understand how the self-centered thinking makes you separate from all the rest and makes you very lonely. If you think, let me do this here, let me listen to this, let me and admit that you don't understand, that you don't know, but you are willing and you're going to observe. Men don't observe, men only talk. And people think that talking is only through words. No, everything that you do is communication. Your body language, the sounds that you make, the voice, the words that you choose to write down, the words unspoken always say a lot also, many times more than the words spoken. The problem is that then it accumulates or it creates a lot of wounds that are not talked through. And so people take this to the grave, and it shouldn't be that way. You should be able to quickly release it and raise your vibration, you see. Because it's about evolution and not suffering. You're supposed to evolve, not suffer. But many times you think that you need the suffering to evolve, or you're suffering and decide to evolve because you can't take it anymore. So it's directly connected to suffering. You see what I mean? So what I recommend is getting out of this self-centered, isolated island and starting to listen to what people around you say and do. Observe, but don't observe to jump into conclusions. That's the thing. You observe simply to know, and not because you need to jump into conclusions and analyze because you need an answer for everything, you know. People who look with mean eyes, searching for downfalls and searching for slippery things that people do around them, are troubled. They're severely troubled. When you look at someone, observe them and just learn from them instead of concluding. Because if you conclude, you assume that you have enough information to understand that, which 90% of the time is not true. And these wise men who say that they understand everything, they understand nothing, because to analyze and conclude something is to shove whatever it is that you just observed into what you already knew, into knowledge that you had previously. So nothing new comes from it. You just shove something that happened in the present moment in something that happened in the past. You understand? Release the need to know everything and observe things and learn from them. What can you learn from it? And be kind. Because you are complaining that you're depressed because people were unkind to you in some sort of way. Life, God, other people, work colleagues, your wife, your children, your parents, whatever. Someone was unkind to you, and this person damaged you for life. Because you're there suffering in an island because of it, with unforgiveness in your heart. So if this kind of wound was caused by unkindness, be kind and do something different. Otherwise, you, the abused, become the abuser. You see?